All right, speaking to the conservative legal group, the Federalist Society, last night, Supreme Court Justice Samuel Alito delivered a hard-edged speech that touched on pandemic restrictions and the rights of the LGBTQ community. Alito said that he was not diminishing the virus's threat to public health or the legality of the restrictions, but he called them a constitutional stress test that ultimately cannot be permitted.
Think of all the live events that would otherwise be protected by the right to freedom of speech. Think of worship services. Think about access to the courts or the constitutional right to a speedy trial. Trials in federal courts have virtually disappeared in many places. Who could have imagined that? Whatever one may think about the COVID restrictions, we surely don't want them to become a recurring feature after the pandemic has passed. And whenever fundamental rights are restricted, the Supreme Court and other courts cannot close their eyes.
All right, joining me now is MSNBC chief legal correspondent and the host of The Beat, Ari Melber. Ari, great to have you back on the show. Your reaction to his comments on COVID restrictions there?
I think Justice Alito made several points that are reasonable on policy and law, although I understand why they immediately drew pushback, particularly because at times he was selective in where he wanted to weigh in politically. And in doing so, he's sort of revealing a little bit of his political ideology. But Eamon, on the COVID stuff, which has gotten the most attention, you need to look no further than this past weekend, where many people wanted to be outside to react to the presidential election results. Some people were reacting positively and celebrating, others reacting in different ways. And while it's good to follow the rules, wear masks and distance, the fact that many people were congregating in large groups was a statement that they deemed this an important enough decision that they wanted to make for themselves. That is similar to other people who say they want to find ways to go to church or religious services on the regular because that's so important to them that they are willing to personally manage that risk. That is, make their own decision rather than have the government do it for them. This is for them. That's a long-running tension, Eamon, as you know, in American life, because hard calls we try to have available to the people to make up their own mind within safety and justice. And so what I think Justice Alito said, and I think different people will hear it differently, but what he fundamentally said was, as the pandemic stretches on and the government or governors make many of these decisions, that's a stress test for the Constitution. At the level of analysis, I would say fact check, true.
Let me get your thoughts on another aspect of what he was talking about, Justice Alito, because some say he got very political about cases that have come before the Supreme Court. You said it reveals a little bit of his political ideology. Watch this, though.
In certain quarters, religious liberty is fast becoming a disfavored right. You can't say that marriage is a union between one man and one woman. Until very recently, that's what the vast majority of Americans thought. Now it's considered bigotry.
So, Ari, how big is the fear that religious liberty could be trampling others' constitutional rights?
Well, it's a great question, Eamon. I just walked through why I think, as a legal matter, his statements about COVID were in the legal mainstream of a reasonable reference to this tension between freedom and government safety restrictions. What we just heard there, I would say, was more out of the mainstream and just really more of a political opinion, which is to say he is a judge. We've heard so much in the confirmation process and once they're on the court about how they want to steer clear of this, but he's made a choice to kind of pick a political spot in the culture war where he is likening the upholding of current precedent. Again, let's remember, whether he agrees with it or not, the current Supreme Court precedent upholds marriage equality. And he is basically saying that he thinks people who disagree with that are subject to political attacks of bigotry. Well, as you know, Eamon, that's not really a legal point. That's just him saying he either identifies or sympathizes with people who hold that view. And he thinks his opinion is to disagree with that is itself bigotry. It's way above my pay grade to resolve that entire debate. But I will tell you, that is the justice giving us politics.
Let me just say this. It also speaks to how powerful the Federalist Society is that they get a sitting justice. It's not the first time, but certainly getting a sitting justice of the Supreme Court to address their convention there. So
you're exactly right. I would love to interview Justice Alito or any sitting justice. The Federalist Society clearly is at the top of that list for some of them.
If there's somebody on this network that can do it, Ari, I am sure you can. So, my friend, good luck with that.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.